Well, hello, fellow investors and traders. I'm L.A. Little, and this is your daily NeoTA wrap. When we take a look at these markets, we do it from a neoclassical perspective. That means each time we ask ourselves what happened today, and does it tell us anything about the coming days? I do this show 4 times a week, every Monday through Thursday. It's broadcast at or before 10 o'clock Eastern Time, archived on YouTube under the channel L.A. Little. Also do a show on Sunday evenings. Tune into that one as well, where we take a broader perspective on what's going on. As far as what happened today, really nothing. You had oil sell off. You had the commodity space under pressure again. The dollar was up. Overseas down. Domestically up. But all inside days. If we look at the charts themselves, you're going to see nothing of value here today in terms of what this market tells us. You got inside days, you got lower volume, really nothing happening there. That's on the S&P 500. If you look at it on the NASDAQ, you got exactly the same thing. The NDX the same thing, the Russell the same thing, and notice all of them finished in the lower quadrant of the bar of the day. All of them had lighter volume. If you look overseas, you actually have pressure on emerging markets continuing. If we use, let's just use the EEM to look at that. And let me grab that for you. You've got pressure here that just continues, right? There's no let up in this pressure. If you look at it on the weekly, you can see it's just doing its ABCD structures to the downside. Just small ABCD structures to bring it back into the support zone. If you look in Europe, if you remember last night, we had some divergent signals out there. Both domestically, we had some. We also had them in Europe. You had an ABCD structure break to the downside in Europe. That's this little B point right here, right? You break up underneath that. That gives you an ABCD structure that's fairly large to the downside. That would take it back into these prior highs. Right now, trying to move lower. You got an over lighter volume though. That says this thing's going to try to bounce tomorrow. So if anything, Europe's given us a small signal back the other way, but we're not talking about major signals here at all, and we're talking about inside days almost everywhere else. If you look at any of these other markets though, pretty much across Europe or across Asia, they all continue to struggle to the downside. Even though they had higher closes in many cases, or in a few cases I should say, for the most part they just keep trailing off. And what is this all a reflection of? It's anxiety and uncertainty about what's going to happen in these currency markets, and these currency markets are dragging the other markets around with them. You got an ABCD structure in place here on the dollar to take it lower. That was off the Draghi disappointment, as they call it. But at the same time, you got Fed saying they're going to raise rates next week. And that should drive the dollar higher and probably will drive the dollar higher. But you've got huge trades on out there in these currencies, and this divergent policy is making it very hard for traders and investors to decide what to do. So you get a pullback today in the euro, back into this bar. That's the big bar up off the Draghi disappointment. If it fades back in a little bit more, you can try to get to the bottom again. But essentially, these markets are trading back and forth. The big currency moves are driving the moves that you're seeing in the equities. And the equities, for the most part, are trailing off, concerned about how the Fed news is going to be taken, concerned about growth in the rest of the country and the world. And so that really, in a nutshell, is what's happening. As far as what we got today, we really didn't get much of anything. We have the same thing basically that we had yesterday. We actually have even less information. And that is if we go back and look at the S&P 500, you just have an inside day. And if you're doing anything with this kind of a trade, you're either standing on the sideline or you're trading with the overall trend. You have a small ABCD structure potentially here that can try to get you down to these lows. It wouldn't be surprising to see this trade back into this area and test that, right? You've got the potential for that. Friday, who knows? We may get it tomorrow. But all I know is that the overall trend mostly up. So if I have to lean one way, I don't want to lean against the market unless I get a good setup. And right now you just don't have a good setup. So you have to lean with it, or you simply have to not lean at all. That is today's show. Hopefully it adds a little color to what's happening. Unfortunately, there's really not much to go on here tonight with respect to tomorrow. Tune in Sunday, and we'll see what we got on a larger time frame. Until then, take care and have a great one. I'll see you next time. Good night.